The Wild West was a land of rugged cowboys, gold rushes and saloons, but it also held a hidden legacy, cannabis. While tales of frontier shootouts and prospecting dominate the lore, few people know that cannabis quietly shaped life in the American West. Beyond the iconic imagery of the Wild West, cannabis found a unique niche as both a practical resource and a recreational escape. Its versatility made it a perfect companion for the tough life on the frontier. How did this plant find its way into cowboy culture? And how did it influence the lives of settlers and laborers? Let's uncover the fascinating tale of cannabis cowboys and their place in the Wild West. Cannabis has been cultivated for over 10,000 years, evolving alongside human civilization. Ancient Chinese texts, dating back to 2727 BC, praise its use as medicine for pain and inflammation. In Egypt, cannabis was used in remedies for glaucoma and fever. Meanwhile, Indian Ayurvedic texts celebrated it as a sacred herb, symbolizing healing and divine energy. By the Middle Ages, cannabis had traveled through the Middle East and Europe via trade routes. The plant's industrial cousin, hemp, became a staple for making ropes, sails, and textiles. As European powers began colonizing the Americas in the 16th century, they brought hemp seeds to the New World. In North America, hemp cultivation quickly took root, becoming an essential crop for settlers. But cannabis was more than just a practical resource. Its medicinal and recreational uses made it highly versatile, and its ability to adapt to new environments ensured its survival and proliferation. This adaptability would later prove invaluable as it spread across the rugged terrain of the Wild West. Hemp was indispensable to frontier life. It provided the materials for wagon covers, ropes, and durable clothing, items critical for survival in the harsh wilderness. Kentucky and Missouri became key centers for hemp production, supplying settlers with the essentials they needed to endure long journeys and challenging conditions. But hemp wasn't the only form of cannabis to gain popularity in the West. By the mid-19th century, cannabis tinctures were a staple in American pharmacies. These liquid extracts were used to treat everything from headaches and insomnia to digestive issues and muscle spasms. For settlers, cannabis was more than a convenience. It was often their first line of defense against illness and injury. The grueling labor of frontier life also created a demand for relaxation. Cowboys returning from weeks-long cattle drives and miners working in dangerous shafts found solace in cannabis. Its calming effects offered a reprieve from the mental and physical toll of life on the frontier. For many, it was as much a part of survival as the tools they carried. After the Mexican-American War in 1848, the U.S. gained vast territories, including Texas, California, and Arizona. Along with these lands came Mexican communities who brought their traditions, including the recreational use of cannabis, known as marijuana. For Mexican laborers, cannabis was more than a pastime. It was a way to relax after long hours of physically demanding work on farms, ranches, and railroads. It wasn't long before their American counterparts adopted the habit. Cowboys working alongside Mexican vaqueros learned to roll cannabis into cigarettes. Around campfires, these joints became a shared ritual, fostering camaraderie and cultural exchange. Cannabis bridged the gap between two worlds, uniting workers through a shared experience of hard labor and relaxation. This cultural blending extended beyond cowboys. Rail workers, miners, and other laborers across the West embraced cannabis, adding their own customs to its growing popularity. The openness of the Wild West, combined with its mix of traditions, created a unique space where cannabis thrived as both a cultural bridge and a shared escape from hardship. The Mexican Revolution, 1910-1920, catapulted cannabis into the spotlight. Pancho Villa, the famed revolutionary leader, was said to have embraced cannabis as part of his army's lifestyle. Villa's troops reportedly smoked marijuana to unwind after battles, creating a sense of camaraderie and resilience within their ranks. For Villa and his followers, cannabis symbolized defiance against oppression, a powerful message that resonated with many in the US, especially in the Wild West. The plant's association with rebellion and resilience added to its mystique, fitting perfectly into the frontier's narrative of rugged independence and anti-authority ethos. As stories of Villa's cannabis use spread across the border, they contributed to the growing reputation of marijuana as a symbol of freedom and rebellion. This image resonated not only with revolutionaries, but also with the rugged individualists of the American frontier who valued the same principles of resilience and defiance. Cannabis wasn't confined to campfires or medicine cabinets. It found its way into the social hubs of the frontier, saloons. These establishments were more than just bars. They were community centers where people gathered to share news, make deals, and relax. Many saloons offered cannabis cigarettes alongside tobacco and alcohol. Some even served drinks infused with cannabis tinctures, advertising them as remedies for anxiety or fatigue. Cannabis became particularly popular among those who wanted a gentler alternative to whiskey. Unlike alcohol, which often fueled rowdiness and violence, cannabis promoted relaxation and sociability. Patrons would gather to smoke cannabis, swap stories, and unwind in a calmer, more harmonious atmosphere. Even beyond saloons, cannabis played a role in the leisure activities of frontier towns. It was used during celebrations, social gatherings, and even in private settings, where its calming properties provided much-needed relief from the stress of frontier life. Its presence became an integral part of the West's evolving social fabric. While cannabis was new to settlers and Mexican immigrants, Native American tribes had their own rich traditions of plant-based medicine. Though not all tribes traditionally used cannabis, those that encountered it through trade began incorporating it into their practices. Some used it for medicinal purposes, while others found it valuable in spiritual ceremonies, blending it with their existing herbal tradition. This cultural exchange highlights one of the defining features of the Wild West, its diversity. The frontier was a meeting place of people from different backgrounds, each contributing their own traditions and knowledge. Cannabis became a symbol of this blending, uniting diverse groups in their shared need for healing and relaxation. Beyond medicine, some tribes viewed cannabis as a tool for introspection and connecting with nature. This spiritual dimension added another layer to its significance in the Wild West, where survival often demanded both physical endurance and mental clarity. By the early 20th century, the era of the cannabis cowboy was fading. The frontier had become more regulated, and industrialization brought stricter social norms. At the same time, anti-drug sentiment began to rise in the United States, fueled by racial prejudice and xenophobia. Mexican immigrants who had popularized recreational cannabis use were targeted in sensationalized news stories linking marijuana to crime and moral corruption. This wave of fear culminated in the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, which effectively criminalized cannabis in the U.S. The freewheeling days of the Wild West, where cannabis had thrived as a medicine, social lubricant, and cultural bridge, came to an end. Cannabis use was driven underground, and its once prominent role in frontier life was largely forgotten, though its cultural echoes persisted in unexpected ways. Although cannabis was silenced for decades, its legacy in the Wild West lives on. The plant's association with freedom, rebellion, and resilience resurfaced during the countercultural movements of the 1960s. Activists, artists, and everyday users embraced cannabis as a symbol of defiance against authority, echoing the same spirit that had defined its role in the frontier. Today, as cannabis enjoys widespread legalization and cultural acceptance, its historical significance is finally being recognized. The cannabis cowboys of the past, settlers, cowboys, vaqueros, and Native Americans, paved the way for the plant's enduring impact on society. From the Wild West to the modern world, cannabis remains a symbol of resilience, adaptability, and cultural unity. The Wild West wasn't just a place of outlaws and pioneers, it was a melting pot of ideas, traditions, and innovations. Cannabis, introduced as a practical crop and embraced as a source of healing and leisure, became a lasting part of this legacy. Its story is a testament to the resilience of both the plant and the people who used it. If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. What part of cannabis history fascinates you most? Let us know in the comments and join us next time for more untold stories from the past.